stupid with your media literacy.
Well, looks like I have a question for all of you. What the shit are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing when it comes to your media literacy and media consumption / intake / diarrhea that you just spew out? What are all of y'all doing? Everybody gets so angry about this kind of stuff. It just confounds me about how angry people are starting to get nowadays with everything that comes out that isn't perfect or is completely disappointing. And trust me, as someone whom stories, movies, and television has pretty much saved their lives and really given them a sense of purpose and love for this goofy ass, dorky ass, freaky, sometimes incredibly depressing, yet sometimes incredibly hilarious, yet sometimes incredibly fucking crazy thing called life, I get it. I understand the need to have certain reactions. It's so strange how much you will fight over something that you really care about. And I have to say that my heart goes out to every single one of you who do such things. I really understand. What I don't understand is why you get mad to the point where you start to lose control of any part of decency in yourself. That shit is not cool. You should not do that. Don't! Whenever y'all get mad at something like that, especially a property, and oh, if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, we're talking about everything that the franchise The Last of Us has done to many people online, on the internet. And you know what? I'm gonna give some benefits. I know that the internet is not the real world, although it sure as hell really is trying to be, or people really think it is. No, I know. But honestly, I'm talking to every single one of you. I'm talking to all the people who actually are on the internet, who bitch about things quite loudly in comment sections, or you make your own videos. I am talking to you. I'm trying to give you something different because that's what I do. Hi friends, Dimitri, your friendly neighborhood Heyoka. I don't know why I did the whole foxy love thing. I've been stuck like this for 3 hours. But all of you who take this shit way too hard to like a borderline sociopathic part, this is for you. All of y'all who do that, you remind me of something. Actually,
It comes to mind that I see, what I see in my mind is something that comes from the show itself. I will not reveal it to you as to what it is right now, but I promise I will get it to you, probably by the end of the video. So I asked myself, after seeing all of the crazy responses and backlash to The Last of Us Season 2, and then kind of catching wind on everything that happened with The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, it really got me thinking for like 4 years. I'm a very slow thinker. In fact, why don't we all just not be too hasty, hobbits? And what do you say we take a long tree-like nap? But yeah, it did take me quite a while to just sort of come to a specific type of place that didn't necessarily anger me so much, and sort of get to a place of amusement toward whatever it is that all y'all are doing out there in internet lands. Yeah, frankly, it's a little scary what the people will get mad about out there.
So legit, I asked myself, what could you do to help?
Bruh. Have a burrito. Have a Macho del Grande burrito from my local taqueria. Macho todo burrito. Everyone and everything is inside the burrito.
Everyone?
Apparently I go to a cannibalistic taqueria.
But I really did think to myself, what could I do to actually maybe quell the fires? And if we're gonna have the fire, it's going to be a constructive one that's actually full of passion and coming from a place that the soul actually does some positive and good things out there, as opposed to stoking the fires of total anus, non-bleached crap. So we're gonna jump in, my friends, and we're going to try to figure out how to do this the right way. And I'm going to try and see if I can maybe infect and seed your little minds as to how you should go about consuming your media by using The Last of Us as a particular, kind of like a little... Oh boy, I have no idea if this is gonna work or not. I don't even know if you're still watching this video, but I hope you is. What do I think of adaptations? 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 What do I think about the movie adaptation? Adaptations. All right, fam. I'm gonna go ahead and get real with you pretty much off the bat. Something I think you need to understand, and this is something that I have observed that seems to ring true out there in our beautiful yet completely chaotic and sometimes massively dirty butt world. That once a story enters into the stream of consciousness of all of humanity, I think they call that the zeitgeist, it automatically has the potential and the ability to turn into a multiverse. Yeah, crazy, right? Neil deGrasse Tyson, talk to me. The multiverse of stories. And honestly, I don't even think it's not even just a multiverse. This is an omniverse. This is an everyverse. This is an anyverse. We're talking the potential of like infinity times infinity times infinity. What I'm trying to say is if you have a story that is going into the world, all of a sudden, as soon as you start changing it, it automatically becomes something different. But yeah, it automatically starts to become something, it changes just a little bit. Therefore, it branches off into something just a little new because stories tend to have a trajectory. And once it branches off, it becomes not the original thing. I guess it's kind of like a child. Like, yeah, you have one thing and then another thing and then boop, but then something new comes out. And then that little thing potentially makes something else and then 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 something else. So you have to understand that all stories, since they exist in this crazy anyverse, they are not going to be the same. And since they're not the same, that means you sort of have the opportunity for a whole different experience. Yeah, that's nice, right? To have a whole different experience. And for those of you who are like, no, that's not how that works. People, please, clearly you've never been to the theater. How many different versions of Hamlet are there out there? How many different versions of any Shakespeare show are out there? How many different versions of there are there of Streetcar Named Desire? How many different versions of there are Disney Plus's Hamilton? You go to theater, you see a bunch of different things. And that's kind of what you get when you get an adaptation. Now, how do I feel truly about adaptations? Well, I absolutely never discount the potential for a story to be something that influences me for the rest of my life. That's nice. It's a nice feeling. It's lovely to think that maybe a different version of a certain story will indeed just enlighten me in some different way. That's nice. That's a nice feeling to have. Does it always happen? I mean, no. Absolutely not. Some shit is worse when it gets adapted. Some shit is infinitely better. It depends. Oh, and I had an even deeper thought is that even if 1,000, let's say 10,000 people absorb the same story, they're not even absorbing it in the same way because of their life experiences. They're gonna experience and they're gonna pull from different little nuances and different little things. Certain characters will gravitate toward them. They'll gravitate toward that certain character more versus another character for another person. This story beat is gonna be different. Something about whatever the themes going on in the story are going to be so different for every single person. Hence, the every analverse. I say anal because from that, poopy comes, and from poopy comes fertilized things like plants and carrots. You know, the stuff we put in our mouths from poop. Just like anything, adaptations have an ability to be awesome, or they can have the ability to suck dirty butt, and everything in between. So, what does that have to do with The Last of Us? Well, just that. We had an initial game, The Last of Us Part 1, or just called The Last of Us, I suppose. Came out in, I don't know, 2022,
2020 something, 30 something.
But it came out, and I played that game a little bit after it came out, and it blew up the world. I think Game of the Year, all this other stuff. It's a great game. I had so much fun. And man, it's actually one of the only video games that made me cry like an extra large double McPansy ass. Like hard, like ugly cried. That opening scene, man. And then we got The Last of Us Part 2. Oh man, The Last of Us Part 2 was so goddamn divisive, man. Even freaking Democrats or Republicans are like, hey everybody, go ahead and chill out with this Last of Us 2 stuff. What a divisive game. But then, lo and behold, HBO picks up a thing, and then we get the live action version of The Last of Us story / franchise, or whatever the hell it's called. It gets thrust into the multiverse for anyone out there who would like to consume it in a different way. So yeah, I love a good adaptation, but I definitely want room for original things as well, and I want them to be as loud and appreciated as a mainstream IP that people recognize, you know?
Also friends, because I ramble a whole hell of a lot, I forgot to mention something. That the reason that this actually applies to The Last of Us is because since every story has the potential to exist in this anyverse, you are not gonna get the same things when adaptation occurs. The game is absolutely not going to be like the show. The show will absolutely not be like the game. So you will have different things going on and different interpretations and different almost anything and everything, because these things are being created by completely different people. So there you go. It's different, and it always shall be different. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled program, and I'll try my best not to ramble as much, but no promises.
You guys probably like, hey bro, how the fuck is it supposed to help like the anger towards Last of Us and what people say about Bella Ramsey and the shit that was The Last of Us Part 2 and the fucking shit that was The Last of Us Season 2?
Okay. I figured I would try to be as concise as possible, seeing as how I'm basically just riffing at this point. But basically be as concise to just share what I thought about these things. The Last of Us, both games and both seasons of the TV show thus far. And I guess in a way, more importantly, how I started thinking about them in the way that I did.
So I just need a little dab of my Mongolian whiskey. My whiskey tastes like a chalupa.
But yeah, thinking about the how, because my friends, a tiny jump to the future, if you start to do it a little differently, you're gonna feel a little better. Okay? What did I think about the Last of Us game? Solid. I had never played a game like it before. It touched me in the heartstrings. I could have said that way less molestery. I understood the soul of the thing. The ambiguity of the end was amazing. The gameplay was cool. I really gravitated to pretty much all the characters in the game. It's tragedy. There's a little bit of levity into it. Brilliant game. I think it definitely deserved the praise that it got. So I'm not a big gamer, but I definitely can recall and I hung on to the experience of playing the game. And that experience was definitely in a very upper strata of just something that will probably stick with me for the rest of my life. Yeah, unless I get Alzheimer's or dementia, which would suck. But hey, positivity on that. If I forgot I played the game, I can play the game again and then enjoy it again. Oh man, the mind is so fucking weird. And maybe that's something to latch on to, my friends, is that the experience of something is something that you can definitely hang on to. I would probably just say, hey, exercise a little bit of contemplation with your experience. Don't just let the reaction be the sum total of everything you might have felt for something. Dig into it a little bit. Think about it for a little bit. Wonder why. Wonder what path, what train stoppage did it do? Hey everybody, we're stopping at this thought here, and then we're going over to this stop here, and then we're going to go to this stop over here, and then this stop over here. Think about it just a little bit. It's a fun exercise and a fun practice, and your brain will thank you for it. And so will your social skills, because basically you'll know how to, project and say kind of like what you feel with some pretty cool original thought maybe. So it's always cool. People like to hear original thoughts. Last of Us Season 1. How did I feel about Last of Us Season 1? Well, there's some things that took away from the game, but that's okay because one thing is a video game and the other thing is a TV show, so that is all right. I absolutely adored the performances. I thought the adaptation was actually quite solid. People who say it was not the game, how dare it? Again, guys, any verse, remember? Any verse. It will never be the same. And I think it pretty much hit all the heftiest of story beats relative from the game to the TV show, with some explorations in the themes and everything, going a little deeper in the game because you can explore something in a different way with different tools as you're telling something in a long form television narrative. That's great. I thought it was great, hence why I really enjoyed The Last of Us Season 1. And now we're going to talk about our two main characters inside the show. What did I think of Pedro Pascal? Hey, I like the man. He seems really cool. If I ever get the opportunity to work with him, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think we'd have a freaking awesome good time. Now, what do I think of Pedro Pascal as Joel? I actually quite like him as Joel. Again, he is a different kind of Joel. He is not Troy Baker's Joel, but I'm gonna keep saying it, friends. Remember, any verse. He is not Troy Baker's Joel. No, he's not. Troy Baker is Troy Baker's Joel. Pedro Pascal is Pedro Pascal's Joel. I love the fact that within the show, Pedro Pascal was very, very hard-nosed, and the stigma around Pedro Pascal's Joel Miller was really cool. And, everybody kind of knew, like, oh man, we don't mess with this guy. And given what the script allowed him to do, he was allowed to play with more vulnerability for Joel. And that kind of works in a sense because how they animated Joel from Troy Baker's one and how they wrote him, very, very different and set in a very different timeline. So it made sense that maybe that Joel was not so much about his emotions, whereas Joel in the show was very much a little bit more in tune with allowing himself to feel vulnerable and allowing himself to actually emote something other than stoicism or something like that, because that's what men do. We're stoic even when we get hit by 4 tough trucks. Four fucking trucks. So it was a different kind of Joel that I appreciated because there were parts, especially near the end of the season. Oh, and by the way, if you don't understand that there's spoilers in this video, well, there's spoilers. What he does and how he goes about extinguishing anybody who even dares to think about hurting Ellie was actually kind of terrifying. And it was actually cool to see it from a third-person perspective as opposed to first person. Well, I guess you're a third person in the game, but you're the one controlling it. So maybe it's like third and a half persons. Maybe like, oh, the math of that. But no, as opposed to you're playing the game, you are controlling Joel, you can choose how you do it versus getting a real bird's eye view of what Joel is doing. He's kind of terrifying at the end of that. So it was great. If you know what happens in season 2, like I said, it all goes into the fact that he is a little more in touch with how he wants to portray his emotions. He doesn't let it stop him from showing Ellie how he truly feels about her. So yes, I enjoy that. But he still makes some really stupid decisions, and he's still kind of dumb in the things that he does. And he's still kind of selfish. He's kind of selfish, and yes, he is selfish, but he's not necessarily malicious. And I think that's why you fall in love with him a little bit. I would even say that that's true for game Joel as well. He's maybe makes selfish decisions or anything like that. And, depending on how you look at all narratives, maybe he made some stupid shit. But, he's not a malicious man. Or at least we don't know him when he might have been malicious. I don't think. But yeah, that's how I feel about Pedro. I'm gonna reiterate it more times and you're gonna get annoyed. All stories exist in an anyverse. So you will not, I repeat, you will not get the same character from one thing that has been adapted to another. It won't happen. And I'm pretty sure if it does, usually people say that those types of adaptations kind of suck. Maybe I'll put a little pop-up here but from what I understand, there are a good amount of movies that are adapted from books or something like that, where they really try to do this is exact. We're gonna do. Hey guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take the book and we're gonna put it to screen. That's all we're gonna do, and it's kind of terrible. I don't know. So I say again, friends, these things exist in an any verse. And what do I mean by any verse? I mean because every doesn't even quantify everything, because that every can be infinite, but any takes infinite and then times it to the power of possibility. So any verse. It's even bigger than every verse, in my opinion. Bella Ramsey seems so sweet, and I would love to work with Bella Ramsey as well. They are quite talented, intense, vulnerable. Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Reminder, reminder, reminder. Any verse, people. Any verse. Bella Ramsey. I remember the first impression I got from Bella Ramsey when I saw season 1, comparing her, or the impression I know of Ellie from game to show. I thought to myself, wow, Ellie in the show is a little more hard edge than Ellie in the video game. She's much more rougher around the edges. She doesn't come off quite as sweet. She's a little more standoffish, and she's a little, in the video game, kind of had a little bit of a softer disposition than show Ellie. And I remember being a little off-put by that in the initial thought. But then around, I'd say, the middle of episode 4.
I'm bullshitting. I honestly can't remember. But I realized I was like,
Of course, this is a different Ellie. Just like that's a different Joel. Just like the Scarlet Witch from the end of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is very different than the Scarlet Witch that the other Scarlet Witch tried to possess. Just like the Thanos in one timeline is different than the Thanos in another. And then if you watch the What If series, Thanos gets convinced by T'Challa to just stop all his crazy ass ways. Oh, isn't that insane? The multiverse, stories, it all... Did I say multiverse? Oh my goodness. The anyverse in stories. Yes, they're all different. They're all very, very different. So once I kind of came to grips with that fact, I realized that, okay. And then I started seeing a little things like, all right, we got to see a little bit more backstory, how she's a little bit bullied. She's a bit of an outcast with her schools. She grew up way more in tune to the violence of the world, whereas Ellie in the game was definitely just a tiny more bit adverse to it. Not much, but enough to kind of be noticeable. And that she was still very much a gentler child. Whereas Bella Ramsey's Ellie is not as in tune to the softer side. And guess what? That is A-okay. A-okay. I know that's not how you do A in sign language, but A. And that's a little fucking thing for all you people out there who get really, really mean and absolutely stupid about her looks. Guys, y'all, come on. Don't be that stupid. Don't be that you're actually being stupid. Let it go. Take the stupidity butt plug out of your ass and just do better. But guess what? Even for those changes that Bella brought to the character of Ellie, she still definitely, especially in season 1, definitely managed to get that kind of like quirky little kid. The fact that she loves puns, that she enjoys playing with other little kids. She definitely can tap into her rage. She can definitely tap into the type of survivor's guilt that Ellie goes through. She can tap into so many things, and that's where I actually found her in a different way compelling. Don't get me wrong, game Ellie is her own version of compelling, played by the lovely and very, very sweet Ashley Johnson. Guys, I brought up the theater thing for a reason. You have to understand that two different people playing the same character, you will not get the same character. You just won't. You really, really won't. I brought up Streetcar earlier because how Marlon Brando decided to play Stanley Kowalski is very different than, say, Alec Baldwin, who played Stanley Kowalski in maybe he did it in theater, but I know he played it in a video version or a film version. How Alec Baldwin plays Stanley Kowalski is very different than how Marlon Brando plays Stanley Kowalski. It's just, that's how it works in art, friends, especially in adaptations, especially with an artist trying to do an interpretation of something. You have different voices pulling on things. So Bella's experiences and Bella's POV, Bella's point of view, Bella's chops as a performer, while some things might be shared by Ashley Johnson are not the same, and the medium is different. So, yeah. And this, how we want to look at and analyze season 2. Now here's the big testicular kicker. What did I feel about The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Season 2? Oh boy. Well, if y'all happen to catch my little playthrough on my channel, which I know a lot of you didn't. I think I got like, I don't know, 30 views on it, maybe. It's just, it was full transparency. I didn't play the game until way later. Way later. I want to say like maybe, oh my goodness, 5 to 6 years after it came out. So I had already heard all the noise around it. Oh my goodness, people got so mad. And guess what? Since your friendly neighborhood Heyoka likes to empathize a little bit with some of the news that came out about it, about how there was some kind of deceptive practices in marketing and kind of the structure around the story and everything like that, and what people expected versus what they got in the game, I understand that initial hit of the backlash for that. I really do. That being said, when I played the game, oh boy, that is a bleak fucking game. It was, oh man. I don't know if that was the intention that was supposed to happen in the middle of the game. You know what it kind of reminded me of? When I got back into reading, I decided to go real light and read the entire trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
Because I'm a genius.
But there's that part where whole pretty good section of when Sam and Frodo are really making their way through Mordor right before they get to Mount Doom and the ring, right before they destroy it. It's basically their whole thing of trekking through Mordor. And I remember being like, I'm kind of really winded right now, and I'm a little bit bored. Now, for all you Lord of the Rings fans out there, don't get mad at me, because here's what I came to think. It wasn't boredom in a bad sense, and it wasn't this fatigue or this thing that was happening while I was reading, because I was like, is this Tolkien? Is he doing this on purpose? Am I supposed to be fatigued and really kind of just aching through each word to describe what they were going through? Am I supposed to just kind of feel what they are feeling, being in this place of, you know, borderline brimstone and hatred, and, you know, this is the evil part of Middle Earth? That's how I felt playing the game. So in a sense, it was good. And don't get me wrong, some parts of that game really dragged. And because of the bleakness, I was starting to dip into the negative side of boredom and fatigue, and just like, okay, I'm gonna keep playing. And I completely was kind of like, the structure of this thing was a little weird. I will say, as a fellow storyteller and a performer and somebody who's trying to make a living making his own stories and appreciating stories and all the kind of stuff that we can do as artists, I didn't hate the structure. And this is one thing I will emphasize for all of you to try to do, all right? I didn't hate the structure, I just knew it could be better, especially with what they were trying to tell us that they wanted to do with The Last of Us Part 2. Neil Druckmann kept saying that it was about empathy, learning about empathy and the cycle of violence and all that other stuff. Now, there are tons of video essays that can give you way better explanations about how that's not true, how it is true, how he's full of shit, how this game is crap, how this game changed their life, how this game, they actually married this game and they have fallen in love and they have been in love ever since. I get it. My whiskey tastes like fate. Now you're wondering, did I say fate or feet? The world may never know. One of my biggest sort of butt cracks and consideration in that statement is there was no empathy to be had by the characters in the game. I know that seems weird, right? That seems strange. If Neil Druckmann was talking about the players as having an exercise in empathy, yeah, sure. You realize what Abby did to Joel and how it affected Ellie, and then if Ellie does this thing to Abby and all this other stuff, yeah, sure, empathy, right? But the thing is, I would say if I was in that writer's room, like, you are not giving us empathy for the two of them. You're basing it solely on the sources of the audience. But Ellie never learns empathy because in the game she never learns
what happened. And neither does Abby. Hence why I thought the ending was the biggest kind of misstep that they took, and the complete missed opportunity that they just did not fall into was having some type of dialogue, a true dialogue between Abby and Ellie. And I understand the artistic nature of just like that's not how the real world works. And that just wouldn't happen in the real world because, you know, violence and crazy, we don't get answers in the real world sometimes, right? That's true for the real world. And I know we're supposed to be doing a little bit of a real world steep in this game, but for a story and for the catharsis and for the actual ingesting of something that could rewrite and heighten our consciousness and our awareness and give us a whole new perspective on what this story is trying to give us in life, that's where you can take a little bit of a Statue of Liberty toward like, let's have them have a conversation. Just a tiny little conversation, just a little one. I know I can go on and on about the game in 2, and there's so much to actually like as far as for the technical marvels for the game itself. I enjoyed the gameplay, I enjoyed the fight mechanics, it looks gorgeous, and for the parts of the story that actually really resonate, and I know a lot of people hate the story, but legit it stuck with me. And not in a negative way per se, because even though it's bleak and at the end you feel hollow, I'm like, okay, that might be the intention. And I'm pretty sure I feel the way Ellie does right now because everything was leading up to something completely unanswerable at this point. Because, well, dead is dead. Unless you live near Pet Cemetery. You don't gotta go down that road. But you know, the rage and the obsession and the blindedness shared by the characters. I always kind of said that no, Abby and Ellie don't parallel each other. What it actually kind of is Abby is like future Ellie. So she's like 4 weeks ahead of Ellie. She's future Ellie in 4 weeks. And also if Ellie got on a really kick-ass athlete's routine to just build some muscle. Oh yeah, on a side note, no, stop about the aesthetic about the people. Seriously, you did it with Bella Ramsey, now you're doing it with Abby. Like, what do you want? Seriously, sometimes you got like a woman who is really, really beefed out as a symbol of her obsession and how she's just really trying to get strong to actually fulfill her revenge quest, her obsession. You guys bitched about that. And now we have a smaller girl who's playing this person in season 2, and now you're bitching that she's too small and she's... What do you want? You guys are worse than Rachel McAdams in The Notebook.
What do you want?
And I guess that brings us goofily on to The Last of Us Season 2. So much to actually love about this particular part, and it's usually the part that's stuck with the games. They enhance some of the things, like for example the really big attack on Jackson. That was really cool. But actually, if I'm being honest, as much as there is a lot to love, oh my goodness, it was messy. The Last of Us Season 2 was messy, disjointed, and a sort of chaotic pulp that was unfocused. I kind of feel like maybe they didn't know exactly what direction they wanted to go into. I know they're teasing the season 3, but if we're just taking as far as for if every story is a trajectory, you're kind of weaving a very just season 3. Like they didn't quite clean it up and really focus on something like they did with season 1. So when the first episode aired, I was actually filled with hope because I thought they were gonna take a really big risk. I was praying, all right, on some midnight mass shit, which is probably not a good way to pray. But I was praying and I was so excited. I was like, hey, yo, are they about to like really take this to in a different direction? Maybe really learn from the mistakes of the past, from everything that they could have improved on with the game. Are they going in a different direction for season 2? I thought what was going to happen was potentially, maybe if they were really going to take a risk, that they were going to have kind of crazy intertwined, very personal story between Ellie and Joel, So Bella and Pedro, and he was going to last until the last episode of the season. Basically just taking different types of ways, integrating what happened, all to reveal everything that goes on with Abby. And oh man, I was so excited that I was like, oh, okay, so if they keep Pedro on, because he's a fan favorite, they can just really sort of flesh out the real destructive nature of what happened because Joel lied to Ellie. Oh my gosh, I was like, yes. Oh, let it happen. Oh my goodness, HBO, take a risk. But they didn't do that. And I think that's where the messiness came from, where they wanted to do a thing for the TV show, and sometimes that worked, especially like with things like with my man Joe Pantaloons, that whole story beat, and how Ellie finds out that Joel lied to her. It was great. I really dug that, but it was like they wanted to do this thing with the show, but then they wanted to do this other thing from the video game to keep true to the source material. And I'm like, but you don't have to do that.
Because if you don't have to do that, because then you can do a thing where you fix all of your mistakes, like I said before, but you can actually go deeper, and you can fundamentally change the story to make it even better than anything that was expected, and that's how you subvert expectations. Oh my goodness. Okay. But I digress. I'm digressing. Oh my goodness. I will not digress anymore. No more digressing for me. No digress for.
I think that's how I would probably summarize The Last of Us Season 2, as just sort of a likable mess. And that's how I see it, friends. How I got there is because I know, and I have years of experience with collaboration and performance and writing, and just stepped in, well, sort of, but I've been involved in the artistic and creative process for most, if not all, of my adult life. So I know that these things never go smoothly, and these decisions made by so many people can just clash with sometimes. I think I need you to understand that, friends. If you are one of those people who get really, really upset about a property that means a lot to you, and you don't know how to express your frustrations, I would say, in order to gain that little bit of empathy that Mr. Druckmann is always talking about, is go out and make your own thing. Seriously. Like, it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be, like, nobody even has to see it. But just try to get together, write a little story or something artistic where there can be a little bit of collaboration. And you'll see how quickly things can get muddied and foggy, because there are so many voices in the room to make these, multi-million-dollar projects. Like, really. And I don't know if it's the fault of, it's people trying to do this thing on the left, or we need more conservative things, or the politics and art and stuff. I mean, sure, agendas and shit, but I don't know. If you think about it, all art kind of has an agenda, because the people who write them have feelings about stuff. How, maybe the whole thing is how you present those thoughts and ideas and these agendas. That's what matters, sure, but I'm just saying. That's where I get sort of taken aback by people who are criticizing Bella Ramsey for the performance that Bella gives is not necessarily up to Bella. It's up to the writers, how the directors choose to showcase that performance, the editors in showcasing this performance, and also even higher than the choices made in the writing room, it's the choices made by the executives and the producers. And I know that Druckmann and I think Craig Mazin? Yeah. And another one of the writers actually had executive producer credits and privileges in that. But even then, I'm pretty sure, not fully, but I'm pretty sure they still have to answer to people even higher than them in HBO, because HBO has to have the brand. It's a ladder, and Bella is trying to do their best in order to give what is on the page, hopefully, elevate the material. And there are many points where I felt that Bella Ramsey did that. But my friends, I promise, it's usually not the actors or the performers inside of a piece. They have, unless you are an A-lister, or you're, as the actor, you also have executive producing privileges and creative say, like a full creative say in what's going on. You usually don't have that kind of pull on a full-on set. So everybody just chill, man. Chill on all this crazy analysis about hating people, man. Come on, you guys are making my elbows hurt. You're making my elbows hurt. Stop.
So what does all this mean, my friends? I'm your friendly neighborhood Statham.
Nah, but what does all this mean, my friends? What does this mean for the discourse in consuming media? Well, like I said before, my friends, if you ever get the opportunity, I highly recommend you take it. If this gets you really that mad, and I'm not even talking about the people who are making profits off of rage baiting. If you are those people and you are purposefully giving nothing but fuel to the rage that people have, and you're lying about some of this stuff, or you're convoluting and distorting certain things about narratives and these characters and these people involved, if you're doing that, you can go suck the raunchiest ass. Seriously. You can. I know you're making profit off it, and that's probably why you're doing it. I don't even know if you believe this stuff. So I guess I'm not necessarily talking to y'all. I hope you all find a better way to use your talents for something positive and sort of benevolent. That'd be nice. No, I guess I'm actually talking to the people who really get mad at this while consuming both the original thing and the shit that makes you pissed and keeps you pissed. You want to know how you can actually take away the power of things that have that kind of control over you? Don't watch them. Seriously. If viewer count on rage baiting videos falls, that shit changes people real quick because that spoon is no longer feeding them. If HBO or Disney or Paramount Plus, any type of major studio is out there giving you what you feel is subpar stuff, don't watch. Seriously, don't watch. And if you are going to be a voice, advocate constructively on what the people actually want. Remember how I said earlier that you can if you can put your thoughts into somewhere that's actually sort of sharp and concise, with many things sort of considered as far as for positives and negatives about a certain story or something like that. You do that, people will really start to follow suit, because then that's the food that gets put around everywhere. That's what's in the air now. That's this type of stuff people are breathing in. That's what people are ingesting. So seriously, friends, don't watch. Don't. If it keeps you mad and if it makes you feel how you're gonna feel to where you're just like, oh, and it's affecting you that way, don't do it. Why are you gonna jump into the poisonous lake? Why? Remember that thing I brought up about the thing that kind of reminds me of all you people? That scene from The Last of Us that reminds me of you? It reminds me of this. Like, see that? You see that person kissing that person with the ugly ass fungi tendrils? Yeah, you are Tess in this scenario, and all the rage bait and your reactions and your non-thoughtful ways of doing this, that's the fungal infected guy right there. And I gotta say, this isn't even a good metaphor, because at least Tess looks apprehensive and she knows she's about to die, and she's just kind of taking this whole thing. This is actually y'all. Yeah, you just love that sloppy fungus eating into your brain. Yeah, that's y'all. And here's the thing, it don't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. You really can choose to just ignore this stuff. If that starts to ripple out into the mass populace of people who kind of enjoy these things and they just want to watch something, guess what? The standard is going to go even higher. Not much, usually not much. It takes a minute, or it takes a big sort of revolutionary thing or things to kind of happen, but just little by little, it raises the bar. And then for you personally, you understand how to consume it to where it doesn't affect you in the negative sense, to where you have to get so mad and then stay that way. I don't know if you feel like maybe it gives you a sense of control, or it feels good to have a community that feels the same way. Trust me, there is a way to have community and those discussions with people who both feel the same way that you do, as far as for liking a franchise of some kind or a particular story. There's a way to have those kind of constructive conversations with people who might feel differently about The Last of Us or Star Wars or Marvel or anything like that.
There's a way to where you control how you react to these things and you don't let other people influence you, which is ironic because I know that's exactly what I'm trying to do. But see, I'm not trying to keep you mad. I'm trying to chill you out. I think that's all I got for the, I think that's Yep, that's all we got. All right, family, I hope this helps. All my friends out there in great internet YouTube lands, I hope this helps, my friends. I have no idea what I contribute to this conversation. Anyway, if you like this video, you want to see more things like this, go ahead and give a like and subscribe and notifications and all that other business. And yeah, I'm going to continue to make awesome things for you, my friends, and keep you laughing and learning. And this is Dimitri, your friendly neighborhood Heyoka, saying, hey, peace is the default. Pretty much with this whole video. Peace is the default. Did y'all ever think about why I say that? Peace is the default because you don't want anybody interrupting your peace. Like, nobody. Don't do it. It's bad. It's bad for the world. Peace is the default. Damn near everything is nuanced. And please, just be fucking excellent to each other. All right, y'all. I think that's a see you later. What if Joel just like took it way too far as for like he was like, if I ever were to lose you, I believe I can see our future day.
Stop it. Get some help.